unit of the car that is given to us by the FIA. You can see there are two displays, one gear indication and then the lights. The lights, you all know what they are, no? It's like in the PlayStation. It's just to know when it's time to change gear. Otherwise, with all the noise of the car, it might be difficult. But it's not that the driver really looks at it like crazy Then you have these little dots that are alarms or flags on the track. For instance, if there is a yellow flag, one of these will go yellow, and the driver will know there is a yellow flag even before getting there. So no excuses if you.
So the guy waving the green flag yesterday is the ones that goes past him in his car halfway smashed against the wall.
Yeah. Then
Then
this tells you your gear, the gear you are in, and then you can select here the function. For instance, let's say we want to change the clutch settings. We go to clutch here, okay? And here you will read clutch in letters, and here you will see the value you have set for the clutch. Let's say you set 3 and you want to go to 4, you click this button, but if you want to go to 2, you click this button. So with these two orange buttons, you can change the setting of all these functions that you see here, and you change it up and down, and then once you reach the value you want, you click accept, and that changes the setting in the car.
Ma quanti giri cambiano?
Qua non lo so, sinceramente dipende. It depends because we never use the engine at the same value. Okay, the maximum RPM is 18,000. Okay, 18.000. But you don't always use the engine at full RPM, and so there is in fact these revs. You can use different levels of RPM from the engine, and all these things will be the engineers telling the driver. He doesn't have time to worry about these things. So the engineers back in the pits can read a lot of information. They can read 1,000 channels of information, and based on these channels and some strategy software that they have, they can identify the best values to tell the driver via radio, and they tell him, Fernando, Robert revs 5, and he selects revs 5, okay? Then you have mix, is to change the fuel mixture, so you can have, you know, the fuel is sprayed into the cylinder like a fog, and you can have this fog more or less dense. The denser the fog, the cooler will be the cylinder, so you can use that to cool the engine if needed. You can make but you can also use it to change your pit strategy, because if you inject more fuel, you will use more. If you inject less fuel, you will use less. So you can slightly change the lap you decided to do the pit stop. But obviously you have to be careful not to exceed too much the temperature of the engine. Okay. This is to send new oil into the oil tank from an auxiliary tank, and this is to have different acceleration curves. Okay, the ways the engine reacts to the travel of the throttle. Overtake, this blue button is, I just told you that not always we use the engine at full power. So let's say that the driver is using the engine with a bit of reduction, but he's doing an overtaking maneuver and he thinks, shit, if I don't have full power I will never manage to pass him. He can click this button and the engine will give him more power. The problem is that the other driver has the same on the steering wheel, and when he sees that the other guy is managing to pass him, he presses his button as well. Yeah. So it's all a bit of a, sometimes it's a war on who presses the button first. And
so is the curse button there or not?
The curse button is, yes. No, this one is one without curse, sorry. Okay. Because it's a copy of the new steering wheel. But next year, because you know this year we don't use it.
Yeah.
We don't use curse. All the teams have decided not to use this. Curse is kinetic energy recovery system. It's a system that recovers the energy from the braking and return it to the driver once a lap when he wants. But it's been, now all the teams agreed not to use it, but they are agreeing now to reuse it again. So probably next year we will see it again. And if not next year, certainly after. This is also another system that was recently introduced to the car. You can actually change the angle of the front flap once a lap, and with this you can decide the angle of that movement, and with this one you actually activate the movement. This yellow button is very important here where we are at the moment, because it's the pit lane speed limiter. To make sure the driver doesn't pass the speed limit, he has to click this, and it's like a cruise control button that prevents the car from exceeding that speed. And then this is the neutral button to put the car into neutral, or folle in italiano, dopo amor in francese. These three are very interesting. This is practically the only control the driver is actually deciding himself, because the best sensor to decide this is the bottom of the driver. Okay. What are they? These make the differential harder or softer. The differential is that part in the gearbox where the two axes of the wheels join. Okay. If the differential is very stiff, it means that the two wheels have to rotate at the same speed. So when the car enters in a corner, the outside wheel wants to go faster because it's covering more speed, but it can't, so it locks and the car slides. Okay. And you have derapage, or in English we call it oversteer. Okay. And I mean they call it, because I'm not English. And the contrary, if the differential is very, very soft, all the downforce from the rear wing will transform into traction, and basically the wheels are completely free to rotate independently, so that when the car enters in the corner, the rear part of the car doesn't want to turn, it wants to go straight, because there is so much grip. Okay? And so basically you have understeer. And you can find the best balance between oversteer and understeer playing with aerodynamics on the car, so the downforce on the rear and the front of the car. But that you can decide it before the race. Nobody can go and change the wings during the race. So the driver can change the attitude of the car to oversteer and understeer using this instead. Okay? And these are for the exit of the corner, the entry of the corner, and the middle of the corner. So the differential can actually change settings in various points in the corner to give the driver the best type of attitude in these different sections of the car.
So they have time during the corner to manipulate.
Well, no, during they do it before the corner.
Okay.
And then in the rear steering wheel there is also something here. Two more, and this is again differential related, and they can actually do it in the corner. But a lot of people are surprised that the drivers can actually do all these things while they drive. But if you look at the onboard camera very, very often, when they focus on the driver, you can see that he's actually doing things. So it's, I would say on average, they change 2 settings every lap. So it's quite some work. And a lot of people ask me, but it's very difficult, you know, at that speed, and but everything is lower for the drivers. They have incredible reflex. So they have done this all their life, and certo.
Di marcia non so.